The rain-slicked streets of Portland gleamed under the sodium lamps like veins of forgotten promises, and Evelyn Harper stood there, 28 and unraveling, her heart a bruised fist against her ribs. Her sister's voice echoed in her mind, sharp as shattered glass. "You're broken, Evie. This isn't love. It's a mistake you'll regret." The words had landed years ago, but tonight, in the dim glow of her apartment window, they bloomed fresh, a thorn twisting deeper as Evelyn stared at the woman she loved, Lila, with her quiet smile and calloused hands from tending the community garden, packing a suitcase by the door. In that moment the world cracked open, spilling the truth Evelyn had buried. Love, the kind that rewired your soul, was not a choice but a quiet revolution, and she was done apologizing for it. Evelyn's childhood had unfolded in the shadow of the Cascade Mountains, where the air carried the scent of pine and regret, in a small town called Juniper Falls, Oregon. It was the kind of place where Sundays meant church steeples piercing the fog and family dinners stretched into evenings of half-spoken stories around a oak table scarred by generations. Her parents, Harlan and Beatrice Harper, were salt-of-the-earth folk, Harlan a logger with hands like weathered maples, Beatrice a schoolteacher whose laughter could coax wildflowers from cracked soil. They raised Evelyn and her younger sister, June, with the steady rhythm of the seasons, summers chasing fireflies along the Rogue River, winters huddled by the fireplace trading tales of ghosts in the old mill. June was the golden child, 2 years Evelyn's junior, with sun-kissed blonde hair and a laugh that drew people like moths to a lantern. She was the one who excelled at pageants and proms, who dreamed aloud of escaping to the bright lights of Los Angeles. Evelyn, quieter, preferred the company of books and the solitary hike up Mount Hood, where the wind whispered secrets the world below ignored. They were close once, inseparable as the roots of the ancient firs that flanked their family's gravel driveway, sharing secrets under quilt forts, defending each other from the neighborhood boys' taunts. But adolescence carved a chasm. Evelyn's first crush on a girl named Mara from the debate club bloomed like a hidden orchid in her chest, fragile and fierce. She confided in June one autumn evening, leaves crunching underfoot as they walked the orchard path. June's eyes widened, then narrowed. "That's not normal, Evie. Mom and Dad would die. You can't tell anyone." The words were meant as protection, but they lodged like splinters. Evelyn nodded, swallowing the bloom, and for years she wore the mask of the dutiful daughter, the one who helped Beatrice in the kitchen, who laughed at Harlan's jokes, who dated a string of forgettable boys from the local college just to keep the peace. By 25, Evelyn had fled to Portland, trading mountain air for the city's pulse, enrolling in a graphic design program at Portland State while waitressing at a cozy cafe called the Ember Pot. There, amid the clink of mugs and the steam of fresh espresso, she met Lila Voss. Lila was 30, a botanist with roots in Seattle, her dark curls framing a face etched with the quiet strength of someone who had weathered her own storms. She came in every Tuesday, ordering black coffee and sketching wildflower diagrams on napkins, her fingers stained with soil from the urban farm she ran. Their first real conversation unfolded over a spilled latte, Evelyn's apology tumbling into Lila's easy grin, and suddenly, the world felt less like a cage. Love arrived not in thunderclaps but in the soft persistence of dawn light filtering through rain-streaked windows. They spent evenings wandering the Willamette River trails, Lila pointing out the resilient salmonberry bushes that clung to riverbanks despite floods, Evelyn tracing the freckles on Lila's shoulders like constellations. For the first time, Evelyn felt seen, not as the Harper girl from Juniper Falls, but as herself, whole and unapologetic. They built a life in a loft apartment overlooking the Pearl District, walls lined with Lila's pressed herbariums and Evelyn's sketches of imagined landscapes, mountains that kissed the sea, skies heavy with unspoken dreams. But shadows lingered. June, now a budding actress in LA, visited sporadically, her energy a whirlwind of auditions and fleeting romances. The sisters' bond had frayed into polite emails and holiday cards, but Evelyn ached for the girl who once braided her hair. When she finally gathered the courage to introduce Lila, at a family reunion back in Juniper Falls, the air thick with barbecue smoke and the hum of cicadas, June's reaction shattered the fragile peace. The gathering was under the old willow by the river, lanterns strung like fireflies against the twilight. Evelyn held Lila's hand, her palm warm and steady, as she approached the cluster of relatives. Harlan clapped Lila on the back with a gruff welcome. Beatrice enveloped her in a hug scented with lavender soap. But June, perched on a picnic blanket with a glass of sweet tea, froze. Her eyes flicked from Evelyn's face to their joined hands, and then the words spilled out, low but laced with venom. "This is what you've been hiding? God, Evie, you're mocking everything we grew up believing. It's disgusting." The table fell silent, forks hovering mid-air. The river's murmur suddenly deafening. Lila's grip tightened, a silent anchor, but Evelyn felt the ground tilt, her sister's gaze a blade carving old wounds anew. June stormed off toward the house, her heels sinking into the soft earth, leaving Evelyn to field the awkward questions with a smile that tasted like ash. That night, alone in her childhood bedroom with its faded floral wallpaper, Evelyn wept into her pillow, the weight of rejection pressing like the mountain's shadow at dusk. Lila held her through the sobs, whispering promises of forests that regrow after fire. But the damage was done. June's words echoed in Evelyn's dreams, a relentless tide eroding the shores of her self-worth. In the weeks that followed, the rift widened. June sent a single text. "I'm sorry if I hurt you, but I can't support this delusion. For your sake, end it." Evelyn deleted it, but the poison seeped in. Doubts crept like ivy over her heart. Was this love a rebellion or a ruin? Portland's rain seemed endless, mirroring the storm within. Lila noticed the distance, the way Evelyn pulled away during their walks, her sketches turning abstract and jagged. One evening, as thunder rumbled over the city, Lila set down her trowel from repotting succulents and faced her. "Talk to me, Evie. Whatever's haunting you, we face it together." The confession poured out like a breached dam. The fear of being unlovable, the ache of family fractured by truth. Lila listened, her eyes steady as ancient oaks, then drew Evelyn close. "Your sister doesn't get to define us. Love isn't a mistake. It's the root system holding us upright." But even as they rebuilt, brick by tender brick, Evelyn carried the scar. She threw herself into work, designing logos for local nonprofits, her art a quiet rebellion against the silence imposed on her heart. Months blurred into a fragile normalcy. They adopted a rescue dog named Sage, a wiry mutt with soulful eyes, and spent weekends driving the winding roads to the coast, where the Pacific's roar drowned out inner tempests. Yet June's absence gnawed. A ghost at every holiday table, every unanswered call. Evelyn wrote letters she never sent, pages filled with the ache of what was lost. The sister who once shared her secrets now a stranger, bound by fear rather than blood. One crisp October morning, as leaves turned the streets to flame, Evelyn received a call from Beatrice. Harlan had suffered a heart attack, sudden as a snapped branch, and the family gathered in Juniper Falls Modest Hospital, the scent of antiseptic mingling with pine from the open window. Evelyn drove through the night, Lila beside her, Sage curled in the back seat. The reunion was a tapestry of grief. Harlan stable but frail, his voice a rasp as he squeezed Evelyn's hand. "Proud of you, kiddo. Always have been." Beatrice wept softly, her strength cracked but enduring. June arrived last, hollow-eyed from a red-eye flight, her LA glamour stripped to jeans and a hoodie. Their eyes met across the waiting room, a current of unspoken history arcing between them. Evelyn braced for the chill, but June approached, voice tentative. "Evie, I heard about Lila. Mom told me everything." The words hung fragile as frost. Evelyn nodded, throat tight, waiting for the judgment. Instead, June glanced away, toward the window where dawn painted the mountains gold. "I was wrong. Scared mostly. But wrong." It was a crack in the ice, not a thaw, but Evelyn clung to it. They sat together that night in the hospital cafeteria, nursing styrofoam cups of coffee, the hum of fluorescent lights underscoring their halting words. June spoke of her own fractures, a failed engagement, the loneliness of chasing spotlights that never warmed. "I thought protecting the family meant keeping things normal. But normal's a lie, isn't it? It hollows you out." Evelyn listened, the old hurt softening like wax in sunlight, and for the first time, she saw her sister not as adversary but as fellow traveler, both marked by the same unyielding terrain. Harlan's recovery pulled them into a rhythm of visits, the Harper home a haven of home-cooked meals and tentative mending. Lila wove in seamlessly, her gentle humor lightening the air, teaching June to identify edible weeds on forest walks. Evelyn watched them one afternoon, laughter bubbling as Lila demonstrated how to brew pine needle tea, and felt a bloom in her chest. Forgiveness not as erasure, but as space for new growth. Yet the journey was not linear. Doubts resurfaced in quiet moments, like fog rolling off the river, whispering of betrayals past. Evelyn's art faltered, her designs too safe, too shadowed. Lila, sensing the undercurrent, suggested a retreat to the Oregon coast, a cabin nestled in the dunes of Cannon Beach where the waves could witness their unraveling. There, under a sky bruised with storm clouds, Evelyn finally voiced the fear that had rooted deep. What if love isn't enough to heal the breaks? What if I'm still that girl, hiding in the mountains? Lila traced the line of Evelyn's jaw, her touch a map of remembered tenderness. Then we keep choosing it every day. Like the tides, they pull back, but they always return. They walk the shore at low tide, barefoot in the surf, collecting sea glass smoothed by years of abrasion. Emerald and cobalt fragments, symbols of beauty forged in pressure. That night, by the fireplace's glow, Evelyn sketched not landscapes but portraits. Lila's profile against the flames, June's tentative smile from a recent photo, her own reflection in the window, eyes brighter than before. Back in Portland, the mending accelerated. June visited more, her calls evolving from obligatory check-ins to shared stories of triumphs and stumbles. She confessed over wine one evening, the city lights twinkling below their balcony. I envied you, Evie. Your courage to feel so deeply. I was running from mine. The admission bridged the chasm, turning rivals into allies. Evelyn forgave not in grand gestures but in small ones, inviting June to gallery openings, cooing over her latest headshot, holding space for her sister's uncharted heart. As winter yielded to spring, Lila proposed during a hike in the Columbia River Gorge, the falls thundering like applause, a simple band of woven vines in her palm. Marry me, Evelyn Harper. Let's root our lives here, in this wild, wonderful world. Tears mingled with mist on Evelyn's cheeks as she whispered yes, the yes that echoed through years of silence. Word reached June via Beatrice's excited call, and to Evelyn's quiet surprise, her sister insisted on planning the wedding, not in LA's Gloss but in Juniper Falls under the willow where wounds had first surfaced. Let me make it right, June pleaded, eyes earnest. Let me walk you down the aisle like family should. The months blurred in a haze of preparations. Wildflower arrangements echoing Lila's gardens, vows written on pages from Evelyn's sketchbook, Harlan's steady hand carving the cake stand from reclaimed cedar. Guests arrived from Portland's eclectic circle and the town's steadfast kin, the air humming with possibility. On the day, the sun broke through coastal clouds, gilding the river like liquid gold. Evelyn stood in Beatrice's garden, lace dress whispering against her skin, heart a steady drum. Lila waited at the altar, radiant in ivory silk, her smile a beacon. And there was June, arm extended, her own eyes shimmering. Ready, sis, she murmured, voice thick. Evelyn slipped her arm through, the gesture a quiet sacrament. Sisters once divided, now entwined. As they walked the petal-strewn path, the assembly rose, but Evelyn saw only the woman at the end. Lila, her rebirth embodied. Vows exchanged like shared breaths. Rings slipping on like promises fulfilled. In you I found my light, Lila said, voice carrying over the water. Evelyn echoed. And in us forgiveness blooms. The reception unfolded under strung lights, laughter weaving through the dusk like fireflies. June pulled Evelyn aside near the willow, hugging her fiercely. You were right to fight for this. Thank you for letting me in. Harlan toasted to roots and renewal. Beatrice dabbed tears with a lace hanky. Lila and Evelyn danced under the stars, bodies swaying to an old jazz tune, the world a gentle orbit around their shared center. In the quiet aftermath, as guests departed and the river sang its lullaby, Evelyn leaned into Lila, sage at their feet. The pain of years past lingered like a faint scar, a reminder of depths plumbed, but it no longer defined her. Rebirth was not erasure but integration. The wounds transmuted into wisdom, love the alchemy turning lead to gold. And in that mountain-shadowed valley under a sky vast as hope, Evelyn knew. The journey continued, hand in hand, toward horizons yet unveiled. The drive back to Portland the morning after the wedding felt like emerging from a dream woven of silk and sunlight, the Cascade foothills rolling past in waves of emerald and gold. Evelyn's hand rested on Lila's knee, the simple gold band catching flashes from the dashboard lights, a talisman against the ordinary unraveling of days. Sage snoozed in the back, paws twitching as if chasing rabbits through slumbering fields. Lila hummed a melody from their first date, a soft rendition of The Water is Wide, her voice threading through the engine's hum like ivy through stone. But beneath the glow, a subtle undercurrent stirred. June had lingered after the reception, helping pack leftovers into Beatrice's wicker baskets, her movements deliberate, eyes avoiding direct contact. "Call me soon," she'd said, hugging Evelyn a beat too long, the scent of her jasmine perfume mingling with the night's dew. It was the closest to vulnerability June had shown since the hospital vigil, yet Evelyn sensed the fragility, a bridge rebuilt on sand, waiting for the next tide. Portland welcomed them with its familiar embrace. The Pearl District's brick facades etched with rain's patina, the Willamette serpentine gleam under steel truss bridges. Their loft, with its exposed beams and herb-draped windowsills, smelled of home-dried lavender and the faint earthiness of Lila's latest soil experiment. Unpacking wedding gifts amid laughter, Evelyn unearthed a small wooden box from June. Inside, a pressed leaf from the old orchard, brittle but beautiful, accompanied by a note in her sister's looping script. "Roots run deep. Grow with me." The words blurred through unshed tears, a quiet olive branch Evelyn tucked into her sketchbook. Work resumed its rhythm, a counterpoint to the heart's deeper cadence. Evelyn's designs for a women's shelter nonprofit flowed freer now, lines curving with newfound grace, colors evoking dawn over dunes. Lila dove into a grant proposal for expanding the urban farm, her passion a quiet fire that warmed their evenings. They hosted a small gathering for friends, candlelit dinner on the balcony, stories exchanged like heirlooms, Sage begging for scraps under the table. In those moments, love felt solid as the mountains, unyielding. Yet the call came on a Tuesday, gray skies pressing low, as Evelyn sipped coffee at her drafting table. June's number flashed, and she answered with a lightness she didn't fully feel. "Evie? It's me. I need to talk." The pause stretched, heavy as fog. June's voice cracked on the edges, recounting an audition gone awry, a director's casual dismissal laced with implications of her instability. But beneath it, Evelyn heard the echo of old fears. The same terror that had fueled her mockery years ago, now turned inward like a thorn. "I'm coming out here," Evelyn said without hesitation, the words surprising even herself. Lila, overhearing from the kitchen, nodded approval, her eyes a steady harbor. By evening they were on the road south, Sage's head in Evelyn's lap, the highway unfurling like a ribbon of resolve. Los Angeles unfolded in its sprawl of palm shadows and neon veins, a world apart from Juniper's hush. June met them at a cafe in Silver Lake, her apartment a sun-drenched perch overlooking the reservoir, scripts scattered like fallen leaves. Over iced lattes and avocado toast, the sisters peeled back layers long buried. June admitted the weight of her facade, the role she chased to outrun the quiet voice questioning her own heart. "After you came out, it terrified me because, what if I felt it too? The pull towards something undefined." Evelyn reached across the table, fingers brushing June's, the touch a conduit for the empathy she'd fought to claim. "It's not a pull, June. It's a path. And you're not alone on it." Lila, ever the quiet sage, shared stories from her own coming out in a conservative Seattle suburb, the isolation that bloomed into community through sheer will. The afternoon stretched into evening, laughter punctuating tears, the reservoir's waters mirroring the sky's slow bruise to indigo. They walked the lake's edge as dusk fell, sage splashing in the shallows, and for the first time June spoke of a woman, a fellow actress named Riley, with cropped raven hair and a laugh like breaking waves. She sees me. Not the role but me." Evelyn's heart swelled, a tender ache. This was the forgiveness deepening, not absolution in isolation, but shared vulnerability, the kind that bound wounds with threads of understanding. They stayed the night, crashing on June's pull-out couch amid the scent of eucalyptus from the hills, Lila's arm a warm anchor around Evelyn's waist. Dawn brought coffee on the balcony, plans sketched in steam. A visit to Juniper for Harlan's birthday, Riley invited, the family circle widening like ripples from a stone. The drive home carried a new lightness, the Sierra's silhouettes a promise of horizons crossed. Evelyn sketched in her notebook, vignettes of June and Riley hand in hand under the willow, lines flowing with the ease of rivers fed by spring melt. Lila glanced over, smiling. "You're glowing, love." And Evelyn was the light not borrowed but born within, kindled by the slow burn of reconciliation. Back in the loft, life resumed with infusions of change. June's texts arrived daily now, peppered with emojis and candids of Riley's quirky poses. A bridge from tentative to tangible. Evelyn's art flourished, a series of illustrations for a queer memoir project, each panel a mosaic of light-piercing shadow. Lovers silhouetted against mountain dawns, sisters embracing amid wildflower fields. Lila's farm thrived, volunteers swelling ranks, her hands perpetually dusted with loam, a testament to growth's quiet labor. Summer arrived in a blaze of festivals, Portland's streets alive with pride parades and farmers' markets. Evelyn and Lila danced at a waterfront concert, bodies swaying to indie folk under strings of bulbs, the crowd a tapestry of stories like theirs, resilient, radiant. June flew in for a weekend, Riley in tow, the four of them hiking Multnomah Falls, mist veiling their faces like veils of possibility. Riley was a revelation. Sharp-witted with a backstory of small-town Carolina escapes, her presence easing June's edges, drawing out the girl Evelyn remembered. One evening, as they picnicked by the fall's base, water thundering in counterpoint to their words, June turned to Evelyn, vulnerability raw. "Walking you down that aisle healed something in me. Thank you for the grace I didn't deserve." Evelyn pulled her into a hug, the fall spray cooling their skin. "We all deserve it, June. It's what family does. Holds the light when the dark presses in." The season turned, leaves whispering farewells, and with autumn's hush came Harlan's diagnosis. A shadow on the lung, caught early but insistent. The call from Beatrice pulled Evelyn earthward again. The mountains calling like an old lover. This time June was on the next flight, Riley renting a car to follow. Juniper Falls enveloped them in its familiar arms, the air crisp with apple harvest, the Harper home a bulwark against uncertainty. Harlan bore the news with stoic humor, cracking jokes about outliving the stubborn oaks in the yard. But in private moments, his eyes betrayed the fear, hand trembling as he gripped Evelyn's. "Regrets are heavier than any log I felled," he murmured one dusk, porch swing creaking. "Don't carry mine, girls. Love fierce while you can." The words landed like seeds in fertile soil, rooting deeper the commitment to presence, to mending what time might fray. June and Riley stayed through the first chemo round, their energy a bomb. Riley's southern drawl coaxing smiles from Beatrice, June organizing care rotations with the precision of a script supervisor. Lila tended the garden, harvesting kale and carrots for fortifying soups, her botanist's knowledge a quiet magic. Evelyn sketched by Harlan's bedside, portraits capturing his crinkled eyes, the lines of a life etched in laughter and labor. Through it all, the sisters' bond solidified, conversations flowing like the rogue and spate, tales of childhood mischief, confessions of adult frailties. June opened about Riley fully one night, stars pricking the velvet sky from the back porch. "She's my mirror, Evie. Shows me the parts one hid." Evelyn shared sketches from her memoir series, pages alive with their shared rebirth. Two women, arms linked, stepping from cave mouths into sunlit meadows. As Harlan's treatments progressed, strength ebbing then surging like tides, the family wove tighter. A small gathering marked the solstice, lanterns in the orchard, music from an old radio, Riley's fiddle drawing Harlan to his feet for a slow dance with Beatrice. Evelyn and Lila swayed nearby, foreheads touching, whispers of forever mingling with the night's breath. June watched, Riley's hand in hers, and raised a glass. To light after the long dark. Winter's grip loosened, spring's heralds pushing through. Crocuses in the yard, Harlan's color returning. The ordeal had forged them, alchemizing pain into profounder connection. Evelyn felt it in the quiet mornings, Lila's breath syncing with hers, in June's calls laced with inside jokes, in the art spilling from her hands like liberated rivers. Yet growth invited its own tempests. Lila's grant fell through, funding cuts slicing the farm's expansion dreams, her disappointment a shadow Evelyn learned to hold without fixing. They navigated it on coastal drives. Cannon beaches sans a canvas for footprints washed and remade. "We're the succulents," Lila said one blustery day, pressing a fleshy leaf into Evelyn's palm. "Thrive in the cracks." June faced her own gale. A role offer demanding relocation to New York, Riley's career tethering her to L.A. The choice loomed, a fork in the path they'd just cleared. Evelyn flew south for a weekend of sisterly counsel. The three of them, Evelyn, June, Riley, huddled in a Venice Beach bungalow, ocean's roar underscoring their deliberations. "Follow your heart's compass," Evelyn advised, sketching maps of possibility on napkins. June chose compromise. A cross-country pilot, Riley tagging along for auditions, their love a portable hearth. The decision rippled back to Portland, a reminder that rebirth was iterative, a spiral ascent rather than straight line. Evelyn channeled it into a new project, a graphic novel on familial reinvention, panels pulsing with their stories. Mountains traversed, rivers crossed, lights kindled in unlikely hands. Summer crested again, Harlan's remission a quiet miracle, celebrated with a river picnic under the willow. The tree ancient sentinel shaded their circle, Harlan and Beatrice, Evelyn and Lila, June and Riley, sage sprawled in lazy arcs. Laughter flowed, toasts to endurance, the waters murmur a hymn to persistence. As dusk painted the sky in lavender and rose, Evelyn caught June's eye across the blanket. A nod passing between them, sisters, survivors, seeds scattered to bloom. In that golden hour, Evelyn traced the arc of her life. From the mockery's sting to this tapestry of tenderness. Love had been the solvent, dissolving old poisons, revealing the gold beneath. With Lila's hand in hers, the future unfurled like a well-tended path, winding, wondrous, lit from within. The graphic novel took shape in stolen hours, Evelyn's drafting table a battlefield of eraser shavings and half-finished panels, the loft's north window framing Portland's ever-shifting skyline. Lila's presence was the steady pulse beneath. Mornings with coffee brewed strong, evenings with her head in Evelyn's lap as pages flipped. "This one's you," Evelyn would say, pointing to a figure emerging from fog-shrouded pines, eyes alight with nascent fire. Lila's fingers would trace the lines, her touch a affirmation. Art as extension of soul, love as its frame. June's cross-country jaunt brought postcards from diners in Omaha, scribbled notes on napkins from Broadway delis. Riley aced a callback. "Miss our mountain air." Evelyn replied with sketches, caricatures of June as a starlet scaling skyscrapers, Riley as her steadfast co-pilot. The distance tested but tempered their bond, calls evolving into video chats where faces filled screens, laughter bridging miles like invisible wires. Harlan's health stabilized into a watchful rhythm. Quarterly scans met with cautious optimism. Beatrice sent care packages, jars of blackberry jam, knitted scarves in russet wools, each a thread in the web holding them. One fall weekend, the sisters converged in Juniper for leaf-peeping drives, the Rogue Valley ablaze in crimson and amber. Riley joined, her fiddle case slung over shoulder, leading impromptu jam sessions in the orchard where notes tangled with wind chimes tinkle. It was during one such gathering, cider steaming in mugs, that June pulled Evelyn aside to the old swing, its chains rusted but resilient. "I've been thinking about Dad's words. About regrets." Her voice dipped, eyes on the horizon where mountains met sky. "I want to start something real here, Evie. A theater camp for kids like us, ones figuring out their stories in small towns." The vision spilled. Workshops under the willow, scripts born of hidden hearts, a space for voices long silenced. Evelyn's chest tightened with pride, the idea a sapling from their shared soil. "I'll design the logo. Free of charge." They hugged, the swing creaking in approval, Riley's fiddle striking up a reel that drew the others dancing on dew-kissed grass. Portland's winter wrapped the city in pearl gray veils, holiday lights a defiant sparkle against the gloom. Evelyn and Lila hosted a solstice party, the loft aglow with beeswax candles and evergreen boughs, friends gathering for mulled wine and storytelling circles. June surprised them with a flight in, Riley's gift of a vintage typewriter under the tree, a relic for Evelyn's novel, keys worn smooth by untold tales. As snow dusted the windows, they played charades, laughter echoing off beams, sage decked in a ridiculous bow. The new year dawned crisp, resolutions whispered like secrets to the wind. Lila's farm secured a microgrant, enough for a greenhouse expansion, her excitement bubbling as she planned native pollinator plots. Evelyn's novel gained a publisher's eye, an indie press in Seattle drawn to its themes of queer kinship and rural reinvention. Revisions flowed, panels refined, the narrative arcing from fracture to fusion. A protagonist, veiled in mountain mist, finding her way to a beloved's side, sister at her elbow. Spring's thaw brought Harlan's annual fishing trip. A ritual Evelyn and June revived with Lila and Riley in tow. The Rogue's banks, lined with alders budding green, hummed with mayflies in memory. Harlan cast his line with deliberate grace, chemo's toll etched but not extinguishing his spark. "Life's like this river," he said, reeling in a trout that silvered in sunlight. Twists, turns, but always moving forward. The women nodded, hooks baited, conversations meandering from bait techniques to broader currents. Dreams deferred, loves reclaimed. June's camp took root that summer. Willow voices christened with a ribbon cutting under the tree, local kids wide-eyed at the promise of stages built for them. Evelyn's logo, a stylized willow branch curling into an open script, adorned banners, her presence at opening night a quiet thrill. June directed the inaugural play, a original piece on sisters separated by storms, Riley in a cameo as the prodigal's guide. The performance ended in applause like summer rain, tears streaking young faces, Harlan in the front row beaming through his own mist. Evelyn watched from the wings, Lila's hand warm in hers, the story mirroring their own. Redemption scripted in empathy's ink. Afterward, at the cast party in the orchard, June raised a glass of sparkling cider. "To the girls we were, and the women we're becoming." Eyes met across the fire pit, bonds forged in flames flicker. Portland's Pride season swelled with color, Evelyn and Lila marching arm in arm, rainbow flags snapping in breeze, Sage's bandana a festive flourish. June and Riley joined from LA, the four a quartet amid the throng, chanting for visibility, for love unchained. That night, rooftop after-party with skyline views, they danced until dawn, bodies loose, spirits untethered. But equilibrium invited equilibrium's shadow. Lila's greenhouse hit snag. Pests ravaging seedlings, a metaphor Evelyn couldn't ignore. Nights found Lila pacing, frustration coiling like smoke, Evelyn drawing her into baths scented with chamomile, words soft as steam. "We'll replant," she'd murmur, fingers combing curls. Stronger roots from the ruin. June's camp faced funding drought, enrollment dipping with economic ripples. Calls grew laced with strain, her optimism fraying at edges. Evelyn countered with brainstorming sessions over Zoom, ideas flowering. Crowdfunding via Evelyn's novel previews, Riley's network for celebrity endorsements. "We're Harpers," Evelyn reminded. "We bend but don't break." Harlan's checkup brought a curveball, scans clear, but doctor's orders for lifestyle shifts, a sabbatical from logging's remnants. Beatrice adapted with grace, turning their home into a haven of yoga mats and herbal teas. Lila consulting remotely on adaptogens. The family video called weekly, faces framed in pixels, sharing triumphs and tremors. Riley's off-Broadway nod, June's grant win, Evelyn's novel cover reveal. A silhouette of two women against aurora-lit peaks. Summer waned into harvest gold, Willow Voices' second season blooming with bolder scripts. Tales of trans kinships, immigrant dreams. Evelyn guest illustrated a program, her art weaving through pages like veins of color. The closing night, under a canopy of stars, June dedicated the show to the sisters who taught me forgiveness starts within. Evelyn, in the audience, felt the words land like grace notes, Lila squeezing her hand. Autumn's palette deepened, Portland's leaves a carpet of fire. Evelyn's novel launch loomed, a reading at Powell's City of Books, shelves towering like ancient groves. Nerves fluttered as she stood at the podium, voice steadying into the hook. Rain-slick streets, a heart unraveling. The crowd, friends, strangers, a smattering of juniper folk, leaned in, the story's pulse syncing with theirs. Q&A flowed into signings, June's proud grin via livestream, Lila's eyes shining from the front row. Post-launch glow carried into a coastal retreat, Evelyn and Lila renting the old Cannon Beach cabin, sage romping dunes. They walked the Titterline at twilight, sea glass crunching underfoot, bottles of wine shared on the porch. "This book's our map," Lila said, toasting the waves. "From Payne's shore to this." Evelyn kissed her, salt on lips, the ocean's sigh a vow renewed. Back home the season turned fully, first frost etching windows in filigree. Holiday planning buzzed, Juniper for Christmas, full Harper contingent plus Riley, Lila's Seattle kin joining via feast. Preparations wove joy with quiet labors. Evelyn baking Beatrice's gingerbread, Lila foraging evergreens, June scripting a family panto with kids in mind. The eve arrived in flurries, airport reunions, hugs that thawed winter's bite. The Harper home brimmed, tree aglow, table groaning under turkey and pies, fiddles and carols filling rafters. Harlan carved with steady hand, toasting to kin, blood and chosen. Laughter cascaded, stories spun like yarn, June's camp tales. Riley's stage mishaps, Lila's greenhouse revival. Midnight mass under Juniper's steeple, candles flickering, voices rising in him. Evelyn's hand in Lila's, June's on Riley's, the choir a chorus of continuity. Snow fell soft outside, blanketing the world in hush. New Year's dawned clear, resolutions etched in frost-kissed air. The sisters hiked the orchard at dawn, boots crunching, breaths clouding. "What's next for us?" June asked, steam from cider mugs rising like prayers. Evelyn grinned, sketching in air. More chapters. Together. In that moment rebirth felt tangible. Not endpoint, but ever-unfolding bloom. Petals of light against enduring green. The new year unfurled with deliberate grace, Portland's streets thawing into rivulets that mirrored the slow melt of winter's hold. Evelyn's novel, Roots in the Rain, climbed indie bestseller whispers, fan letters arriving like wildflowers after thaw, readers sharing their own tales of fractured families mended by love's quiet insistence. She replied personally, each note a bridge extended. Her days a balance of signings and solitude, pencil-kissing paper in the loft's sun-dappled alcove. Lila's greenhouse stood resilient, panes fogged with green promise, seedlings pushing through soil like declarations of faith. Volunteers returned in waves, the farm a nexus of community. Queer youth learning to propagate lavender, elders trading heirloom seeds. Lila's grant renewal came through, a modest sum that funded a youth apprenticeship, her nights spent poring over curricula, Evelyn massaging knotted shoulders by lamplight. June's willow voices expanded, a satellite program budding in Portland via Evelyn's connections, kids from urban edges finding voice in scripted dreams. Riley commuted for fittings, her Broadway understudy role a stepping stone, calls buzzing with excitement. Nailed the monologue today, thought of you two, fierce as mountains. The sisters group chat hummed, memes and milestones a digital hearth. Spring's equinox brought Harlan's spring fair, Juniper's town square alive with booths and bluegrass, the air sweet with funnel cakes and fresh hay. The family converged, tents pitched in the orchard for overflow guests. Evelyn manned a bookstall, inscribing copies while Lila demonstrated herbal wreaths, her fingers nimble as spider silk. June emceed the talent show, Willow campers stealing hearts with original skits, Riley fiddling accompaniment that set toes tapping. Harlan, vitality renewed, judged the pie contest, his verdict on Beatrice's entry. Best in the West, drawing cheers. Evening bonfire crackled, stories circling like sparks. Lila's tale of a near-disastrous seedling flood. June's recount of a camper's coming out courage. Evelyn added a chapter from her sequel in progress. Protagonist sisters navigating a storm-tossed sea. Audience leaning in, flames dancing in their eyes. Midway through, June slipped beside Evelyn on a log, marshmallow stick extended. "This us here, it's what I mocked once. Thought it weakness. But it's strength pure." Evelyn bumped her shoulder, the gesture sibling simple. "Took us a wildfire to see it. Now we grow greener." Summer solstice called them coastward. A women's retreat Lila organized. Yoga on dunes, writing circles by tide pools, participants a mosaic of stories like tide-worn stones. Evelyn facilitated a session on forgiveness's grammar, prompts drawing confessions, apologies unsent, graces received. One evening around driftwood fire, a participant shared a sisterly rift mended by a wedding walk, mirroring Evelyn's arc. Tears fell, shared as salt, the group a temporary tribe. Back in the city, heat waves baked the pavement, Willamette sluggish under haze. Evelyn and Lila escaped to the gorge, hiking Eagle Creek's trails, waterfalls veiling paths in mist. At Punch Bowl they swam the emerald pool, bodies buoyant, laughter echoing off basalt cliffs. "This is eternity," Lila gasped, water beating on lashes. Evelyn pulled her close, currents swirling. "Our eternity." August brought Riley's Broadway debut, a limited run of a queer frontier musical, women homesteading Montana plains, loves forged in sod-house solitude. The sisters flew east, Harlan and Beatrice tagging for the adventure. New York a whirlwind of subways and skyscrapers. Opening night, house lights dimming, Riley transformed on stage, voice soaring like hawks over canyons. Post-curtain, hugs in the alley, grease paint kisses, June's pride radiant as footlights. They toured the city post-show. Central Park picnics, Ellis Island echoes of ancestors' dares. Harlan marveled at the harbor's span, Beatrice collecting subway tokens like talismans. One dusk atop the High Line, rails overgrown with wild urban flora. Evelyn sketched the skyline, towers as mountains, sisters as summits. "From our little falls to this," June murmured, arm linked. "Who'd have thought?" Fall's harvest moon rose full, Willow Voices hosting a gala fundraiser in Juniper's old mill, beams strung with Edison bulbs, tables laden with locavore feasts. Evelyn's illustrations adorned auction items, signed prints of mountain lovers, proceeds swelling the camp's coffers. Lila catered herbs from her farm, garnishes like emerald confetti. Riley performed a set, fiddle weaving through covers of folk anthems, June's MC patter warm as cider. Harlan bid on a family portrait session, insisting the artist capture them all, Harper's and Voss's, blood and vow knit. The sitting unfolded in the orchard. Autumn leaves a russet backdrop, laughter loosening poses into natural grace. Prints arrived weeks later, framed in reclaimed barnwood. Evelyn and Lila forehead to forehead, June and Riley mid-twirl, Harlan's arm around Beatrice, all bathed in that soft, forgiving light. Winter's approach whispered of change, Lila's apprenticeship program launching. First cohort a trio of trans teens, their hands tentative in soil. Evelyn mentored on journaling, pages filling with sketches of aspirations, gardens as metaphors for self-tending. One evening as frost etched the greenhouse glass, a student shared a drawing of intertwined roots. Caption: "Family found." Lila teared up, Evelyn's embrace a steadying force. June announced her pregnancy, via Riley's egg. A surrogate friend from Ella News dropped over video, ultrasound grainy but miraculous. The family erupted in joy, plans cascading. Nursery designs, Juniper visits for ultrasounds. Evelyn sketched baby books, whimsical forests where saplings grew tall. Auntie Evie, June teased, hand on belly, teach him to draw their dreams. Holiday convergence in Portland this year. Loft expanded by air mattresses, tree scraping ceiling. Lila's kin arrived, her mother, a quiet librarian with Seattle Reserve, bonding over book swaps. Feasts span days. Lax from Lila's heritage, Beatrice's tamales, Riley's Carolina cornbread. Carols harmonized mismatched, sage stealing bows from gifts. New Year's Eve bonfire in Washington Park. City sprawl below like jeweled quilt. Resolutions circled. Lila's for deeper farm outreach, Evelyn's for Novel 2's completion, June's for balancing stage and motherhood. Fireworks burst overhead, echoes of inner sparks. Spring equinox again, circle complete yet spiraling. Harlan's fair brimmed fuller, Willow booth drawing crowds, Evelyn's booth stacked with sequels. Lila's greenhouse open for tours, pollinators humming hymns. June bump blooming directed remotely, Riley nesting in LA. One meadow afternoon post-fair picnic, the women sprawled under the willow. Evelyn sketching the next chapter, Lila braiding daisies into June's hair, Riley humming lullabies to the unborn. Harlan napped nearby, Beatrice knitting booties. "This is the light," Evelyn whispered, pencil pausing. "Love's redemption, not grand finale but endless dawn." The understanding settled deep. Forgiveness a practice daily as breath, weaving pain's threads into tapestries of grace. Summer's zenith found the family orbiting June's impending arrival. Ella trips a ritual of suitcases and sonograms. The Sa gets home a sunlit sanctuary scented with citrus and calm. Evelyn and Lila drove down in the old Subaru. Sage's nose pressed to glass, playlists of folk tunes underscoring the miles. June greeted them at the door, radiant in maternity glow. Riley fussing with herbal teas. Feel, June urged, guiding Evelyn's hand to the swell. A kick like butterfly wings, a future asserting itself. Nursery assembly became therapy. Crib rails clicked into place amid laughter, walls painted sage green per Lila's suggestion, murals Evelyn sketched, whimsical woods where fawns and fireflies danced. For dreams that root wild, she inscribed on a beam. June teared up, hugging fierce. You get it, Evie. The rebirth in every beginning. Portland's heat peaked, Willamette a shimmering ribbon, the farm's fields heavy with harvest. Lila led scythe workshops, apprentices learning the art of reaping, metaphors unspoken but felt. Lives gleaned from abundance, nothing wasted. Evelyn joined for evenings, hands blistered but heart full, baskets brimming with zucchini and zest. Harlan and Beatrice visited in August, their presence a grounding hum. Harlan tinkering in the greenhouse, Beatrice baking pies that drew neighbors like bees. One sunset walk along the river, Harlan confided to Evelyn, voice gravel soft. Watching you girls. It's my best legacy. Love that endures. She squeezed his arm, the rogue's flow a mirror to tears held back. Labor came early September. A midnight call jolting the sisters from sleep. Flights scrambled, hearts in throats. Ella Hospital a maze of beeps and bustle. June labored with Riley's hand in hers, Evelyn and Lila in waiting room vigil. Coffee cold in styrofoam. Dawn broke as cries pierced the air. A daughter, Eloan Harper Voss, 7 pounds of wonder, tiny fists waving like flags of triumph. The room bloomed with awe, June cradling the swaddled form, Riley's eyes starstruck, Evelyn tracing Eloan's downy cheek. She's got your fight, June whispered to Evelyn, passing the bundle. In that hold, time folded, past pains transmuted, future cradled in arms once clenched in grief. Lila leaned in, kissing Eloan's brow. Welcome to the roots, little one. Baptism of sorts unfolded in Juniper weeks later. No steeple but the willow's arch, Harlan officiating with river water and vows of fierce protection. Eloan gurgled through, family circle tight, Sage sniffing curiously. Picnic followed, blankets spread, stories swapped. Lila's seedling parables, Riley's lullaby demos, Beatrice's cradle songs from your. Fall deepened colors, Portland's parks a riot of rust and rose. Evelyn's sequel, branches entwined, drafted in bursts, protagonist now a mother navigating kin's expansions, sisterly bonds stretching like vines. Publisher meetings buzzed, cover concepts evoking cradles and canopies, light filtering through leaves. Willow voices adapted for wee ones, toddler story hours under the tree, June directing from director's chair, Eloan napping in sling. Evelyn illustrated board books, pages thick with touchable textures, fur for foxes, silk for spiders' webs. For tiny hands to trace their worlds, she captioned proofs. Lila's program flowered, apprentices blooming into mentors, one team curating a pollinator garden exhibit at a local eco-fest. Evelyn designed the signage, bold lines echoing her novel's arcs. Opening night, speeches short and heartfelt, the team crediting Lila. She taught me growth isn't linear. It's layered. Lila blushed, Evelyn's arm a anchor. Winter's solstice party in the loft, Eloan 6 months and teething, June and Riley bunking on the couch. Tree trimmed with farm-forged ornaments, pressed leaves, seed pod stars, gifts exchanged in firelight. Evelyn's custom sketchbook for June, Lila's herbal remedy kit for Riley. Midnight circle, hands linked, intentions voiced. For Eloan's curiosities, for Harlan's continued vigor, for love's that weather. New Year heralded change, Riley's Tony buzz for understudy feats, June eyeing a screenwriting pivot, family dinners via Zoom bridging coasts. Harlan scans pristine, a toast to tenacity, Beatrice's garden yielding early greens. Spring's breath stirred Eloan's first steps, captured on video. Wobbly toward June, collapsing into giggles, Riley scooping for cheers. Evelyn and Lila visited, crawling games on nursery rugs, the loft echoing with babbles during their LA layover. She's the bridge, Lila mused, watching Elowen grasp a rattle. From our old wounds to this wonder. Evelyn's book tour launched modest, readings in Seattle, Portland, a Juniper stop at the fairgrounds. Audiences swelled, stories resonating. A mother in Eugene sharing trans-sibling reconciliation, a Portlander gifting fan art of the characters. June crashed the Juniper event. Elowen on hip, signing copies with dramatic flair. To the branches that bend but never break. Summer solstice retreat returned. Elowen in tow, toddlers toddling dunes, mothers mending circles deeper. Evelyn led on legacy's weight, prompts evoking heirlooms of heart. Letters to future selves, maps of mended paths. One firelit share. A grandmother's quiet pride in granddaughter's wife, tears fueling flames. Coast Drive's post-retreat, windows down, Elowen's coups harmonizing with waves. Lila proposed expansions, farm camps for little ones, Evelyn illustrating curricula. Plans sketched on beach napkins, salt-crusted, dreams tangible as tide pools. August heat wave, family flotilla on the Rogue. Inner tubes lashed, coolers bobbing, Elowen shaded in life vest splashing glee. Harlan steered from a raft, stories of boyhood swims, June snapping Polaroids. Dusk picnic on gravel bar, fireflies winking, Riley's fiddle lulling Elowen to dreams. Fall equinox, willow gala grandeur, mill transformed into enchanted woods. Evelyn's murals on walls, Lila's herbs in centerpieces. Elowen toddled aisles, auction fetching records for scholarships. June's keynote on motherhood scripts, Riley's performance a capstone, fiddle soaring. Harlan's birthday bonanza, orchard pavilion, kin from coasts converging. Cake triple layer, wishes sung off-key, gifts practical. Evelyn's photo album of Elowen milestones, Lila's custom pruning shears. Dance floor cleared, pairs swirling, Harlan and Beatrice slow, June and Riley tango twist, Evelyn and Lila waltz whirl. Winter's hush brought quiet joys. Elowen's first words, woe for water, boo for book, prompting Evelyn's scribbles, Lila's hydroponic experiments for sippy-safe herbs. June's script sold, a dramedy on sisterly seas, casting calls buzzing. Solstice again, loft luminous, Elowen lighting the tree's star. Circle tightened, gratitudes voiced. For steps taken, words found, loves that lift. The rebirth pulse steady now, not flawless but full, scars silken as healed bark. Light the constant companion. The wheel turned once more, spring symphony swelling with Elowen's chatter. Her world a lexicon of labels. Birdie, bloom, boo-boo for knees scraped on playground mulch. June and Riley settled into LA rhythms. Script revisions by poolside. Elowen in waiting pool under jacaranda shade. Visits dotted calendars, Portland pull-ins for farm frolics. Evelyn pushing swings while Lila led bug hunts. Evelyn's third book brewed. A triptych of tales, sisters, mothers, lovers, interwoven like braid, publisher eager for autumn drop. Drafts sprawled across tables, coffee rings haloing pages, Lila reading aloud in bed, voice modulating characters' cadences. This one's got your heart, she'd say, finger on a panel of dawnlit embraces. Lila's farm anchored deeper, community co-op forming, shares sold for sustainability, apprentices now alums mentoring new. A youth showcase at the EcoFest drew crowds, Elowen wide-eyed at a Teens B hotel demo, her tiny hand in Lila's. BB, she lisped, the word a bridge from wonder to world. Willow Voices franchise tentative, a Portland chapter under local director, June consulting via holocalls, Elowen cameo in story hours, her gurgles stealing scenes. Evelyn's murals graced the venue, walls alive with whispering willows, children tracing paths with crayons. Harlan's summer checkup golden, scanned spotless, doctor's nod to Miracle Man. Celebration cruise on the Rogue, pontoon laden with coolers and kin. Riley helming with nautical flair. June narrating Elowen's splashes as epic quests. Docked at Twilight Cove, bonfire on shore, stars pricking velvet. Harlan's harmonica haunting Shenandoah. Coast retreat scaled up, families welcome. Cabins clustered like clamshells. Evelyn's workshop on storytelling seeds, parents and progeny crafting folktales from flotsam, seaweed sirens, shell-shielded heroes. Elowen wrote with finger paint, Smudges a masterpiece. Fire circles swelled, shares cascading. Riley on stage frights conquered. A new mother on postpartum tides navigated with sister squad support. Fall's palette ignited. Book tour ambitious. LA launch with June emceeing. Aloan ringbearer of first edition. Crowds queued around blocks. Readings resonant. Q&A delving into inspirations. My sister, the mock to my march. Signings stretched. Hugs from readers whose lives echoed hers. A chain of light links. Juniper Fair crescendoed. Willow booth a hub. Evelyn's booth mobbed. Harlan hawking pies with salesman charm. Evening hoedown, fiddles and feet flying. Aloan on shoulder surveying the whirl, her giggles melody above. Winter solstice gala hybrid. Mill and Juniper stream for coasts. Aloan hosting via video. Waving wand of tinsel. Auction sword scholarships seated. June's fireside chat on legacy's loom. Weaving threads of trial to triumph. New Year dawned in Portland snow globe hush. Family zoom from hearts, resolutions rooted. For Aloan's explorations, for Lila's co-op expansions, for Evelyn's braid book polish. Spring birthed Aloan's second birthday. Bash in the orchard, streamers and boughs, cake berry bright. Kin toasting her toddling tyranny. Gifts piled. Evelyn's pop-up book of woodland kin. Lila's sensory garden kit. Riley's tiny fiddle. June's director's chair scaled down. Summer solstice under full moon. Women's circle on dunes. Aloan asleep in carrier. Mothers murmuring mantras of release. Evelyn shared a vignette from the braid. 3 women. Hands linked across generations. Light threading dark. Nods ripple, the tides pull a collective breath. Harlan's autumn vigil, leaves falling like confetti. Family hike to Old Mill. Tales of logging days. Aloan collecting treasures. Acorns, feathers. Grandpa's giants, she dubbed felled logs, Harlan chuckling deep. Fall equinox, book 3 reveal. Cover a trinity of silhouettes against harvest moon. Pre-orders pulsing. Tour kicked with Seattle soiree. Lila's kin hosting greenhouse tour post-reading. Stars over straits. Thanksgiving convergence in LA. Riley's family folding in Carolina kin with drawls and dishes. Tables groaning multicultural. Aloan mashed yams with glee. Toasts to tables extended. Loves layered. Winter's grip gentle. Solstice in juniper. Willow wreathed in lights. Aloan lighting candles with puff-cheeked breaths. Circle sang carols, Harlan's voice cracking on high notes. Beatrice harmonizing true. New Year Eve on the river. Lanterns launched like prayers glowing downstream. Resolutions whispered. For depths delved, heights climbed, lights kindled communal. The arc crested soft, rebirth a river's bend. Endless, enriching, light the eternal companion. In quiet mornings, Evelyn traced Lila's sleeping form. Aloan's distant laughter via speaker. June's text of script pages. Scars faded to stories, pain to poetry. The journey a luminous loop. Sisters walking aisles of their own making. Wives beside, the world warmer for their warmth. Years layered like sediment richening the soil. Aloan starting school, braids and curls, backpack bulging with dreams. Willow chapters in 3 states, voices amplified. Farm co-op thriving, markets bustling with bounty. Evelyn's quartet complete, books a beacon for wanderers. One dawn in juniper, sisters on porch swing. Coffee steaming, mountains misted. From mockery to this, June mused, Aloan chasing chickens below. Evelyn smiled, sketchpad open to new blank. Rebirth's gift. Seeing the light in what was dark. And so they lived, hands entwined across divides. Loved the lantern guiding through gloam to glow. The story ever unfolding, ever enduring.